Going on, fellas? Jermaine Man back on the scene. I found this video. I don't know why she came up. Probably because I talk about this stuff. It says, why does Hollywood keep doing this? And in her thumbnail, she has the Little Mermaid with the diversity swap. And she's going to talk about it. And a lot of her points are the exact same ones that I have. So let's check it out. Let me expand this.
Bear with me. So yeah, a lot of people have been talking about the new Little Mermaid film, and there's a lot of discussions on both sides. Some people are really upset about the fact that they've race swapped her. Some people are happy about the fact that they've race swapped her. I actually have some opinions on this particular topic of race swapping, and so I thought I would share my 2 cents on the subject. I do think that within the mainstream, the discussion is lacking a lot of nuance. And it seems like the summary of the takes that I've seen so far is very much race swapping good. If you disagree, bad, you bigot. And I have a lot of issues with this for a number of reasons. The main reason is because I think that the argument that everybody who disagrees with this race swap is a racist is incredibly lazy. Unfortunately, it seems...
It is. Are there racists? Duh, we know that. But she's going to bring up some points that I brought up. If you're like a fan of a character, let's say Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy Olsen is a redhead in the book. But on TV, he's never a redhead. So people fuss about that. So is that racist then? No, it's the same thing. You expect the character to look like they do in the book or the description that is given, and once they alter it, you'd have to be a fan of whatever series that is to feel the same way they feel. Let's continue.
Seems like nowadays we're living in a time where people don't care to understand people with different views to their own. It seems like if someone disagrees with you, the quickest way to shut them up is to call them some kind of phobic or some kind of ism. Nuance seems to be dying on the internet, and it's very sad and it's very depressing because I think...
Exactly. Like, if it's the same thing on Twitch, what? If you don't agree with them, then they call you names, dogpile on you. It's like you don't get any real conversation. Like, I was talking to some guys about something, and all they're doing is calling you names, try to, attack your intellect. And I'm like, well, you punks are funny, man. You guys are only talking this junk because you're hiding behind a computer. And that's the problem. Because people get emboldened when they're hiding behind the screen because you can't do anything to them. Like in the real world, he probably wouldn't be talking to you like that. Because men know, if you come with the smoke, you might get smoked. So let's continue.
I think that this topic, I can understand both sides of it, and I think that the solution is actually very straightforward, and I don't think people need to be even arguing about it, in my personal opinion. So I'm going to share my observations as to why the two sides have the views that they have and how we can meet in the middle. Now, this side of the debate is a lot more complicated than I think people wish it was. People seem to really like to oversimplify it by simply saying, those who disagree with this are racist. And
that's the annoying part. You're racist because, no. The character does not look like the book. Like, what was that movie? What was it, Birds of Prey or something? None of the people look like the book. And they did some alterations. I believe there was no Batgirl in there. So that you can't stray from the source material. People have a certain passion for something. They expect it to be close to what's in their head. I think that's the main thing. Let's continue.
And as I said before, I think this explanation is beyond lazy. And the reason for that is because, first of all, it's not just white people or non-black people who disagree with this race swapping that Hollywood keeps doing. There are also a lot of black people who are very frustrated and irritated by the fact that Hollywood keeps race swapping. So to just brand everyone who disagrees with this decision as racist and to assume that all of them are white is very ignorant, in my opinion. Not only is this explanation lazy, but it also doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you truly believe the only reason why people would be upset with this race swap is because they're racist, and your idea is that people just don't want to see a black mermaid or don't want to support a black Disney film, then why is it that other Disney films that star non-white characters with non-white Western cultural themes within the plot have been massive successes? Why was Moana a success? Why was Encanto a success? Why was The Princess and the Frog a success? Why was Mulan a success? Why was The Emperor's New Groove films? Why were they a success? I could go on, because this is not the first time that Hollywood has made a non-white character be the lead. And not only have they made non-white characters be the lead, but they've also done stories that centered around non-white Western culture. And these were major successes. So how is that so if people are raging racists? The answer is, it's not so. People who dislike this race swap are not disliking it because they're racist. They're disliking it for a number of other reasons. And those are the reasons I'm going to discuss now. So the first explanation is that human beings are just very sentimental creatures. We build attachments to people, to things, and also to fictional characters. Women and girls, like females in general, tend to be the biggest people who do this. I mean, remember that whole...
So she's saying the same thing. You know, people like Henry Cavill pretty much said the same thing. People are very passionate about the IPs that they love. And if you're not, of course they can't match which is in your head, but when you deviate so far from that, it's like, what the F is going on? And they're just pandering. That's another thing that irks me. They're not doing it for any, let's say, a good reason or a benevolent reason. They're doing it to pander because they don't really believe in what they're doing.
Team Edward versus Team Jacob thing. I'm convinced that we lost our minds for a brief period of time during that Twilight era. But stuff like that just kind of shows you how much people build attachments to things. And so we don't really like it when people tamper with our favorite characters in any way. Oh my God, I've just remembered something. Do you remember when it was initially announced that Robert Pattinson would be playing the role of Edward Cullen? Twilight fans lost their minds. They were so angry because they didn't want him to play Edward. And the crazy thing is, he wasn't even being recast. They were just angry because he didn't match the image they had created in their heads of what Edward looked like from reading the books. So imagine that's how people react when a character hasn't even been cast or established yet in the real world, let alone when it already has. Even if you're not changing their race, any type of change can be a problem because people just simply don't like it when you tamper with characters. Examples of this I can think of is in the UK. There's this really popular TV show called The EastEnders. And The EastEnders used to get into a lot of heat every single time they would recast characters because they did it fairly often. There's been so many characters that when I used to watch it, I don't know how the show is now, but there were so many characters that they recast and people didn't like it. The people they were recast with looked very similar. They were the same race, whatever, but people just were not happy about it. Other examples from the...
You see, somebody's always going to fuss about stuff. But if you have the possibility that it could be Islamophobic, then they're going to run all the way left field with that. You see, like she's explaining with that show, it's the exact same thing. People don't like change. Or what's in their head, the studio can't match that. But let's continue.
US of this is when they recast Aunt Viv in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That didn't go over too
well. This, for black folks, the whole skin color thing, this is why I say Hollywood is the true istophobes. Because if they had someone black on the team, they could have told them. I would have told them, you can't do this. That's one reason. And another reason is because they liked her. And this lady, no disrespect, she didn't have the charisma that the original Aunt Viv had. And there's other stuff going on in the background. She didn't like the fact that Will Smith was the star of the show because he was a rapper and not an actor. She felt that the actors should get to shine. You know, it's a business, and whoever brings the money in, they're going to get to shine. It was the same thing with Good Times with JJ. People wanted JJ. So there was conflict on that. Let's continue.
Well, or when they recast Claire in My Wife and Kids, that also didn't go over too well. People were not impressed when they changed Aunt Viv and when they changed Claire. People don't like it when you recast characters. Not only that, but people also don't like it when one of their favorite cast members leaves the show. So for example, I'm sure there's at least one show in your life that you really loved, and then one of the characters was either recast or they left the show, and now I'm positive that you weren't very impressed by it. So
yeah, let's say Battlestar Galactica. I didn't like when they took Starbuck off. It kind of killed the show. Or in Sanford and Son, the Lamont left. There's a lot of shows when they make a big change, people fuss about it. So but, you know, when there's a possibility that it could be racist, then, you know, they jump on that.
In general, because of how sentimental we are, when we fall in love with things, we want them to stay exactly as they were when we first fell in love with them. And so we don't like it when people start changing them or start...
That's pretty much the same thing Henry Cavill said. People, they have a passion for it and they like it the way it is.
Tampering with them. Not only are we super sentimental and hate it when any of our favorite fictional characters are tampered with or changed in any way, but this feeling becomes magnified by 100 when you add in the extra component of nostalgia. For example, over here in the UK, Bob the Builder was really popular when I was a kid, and most of us grew up with Bob the Builder looking like this. Now in recent times, Bob's had a bit of a cheeky makeover, and so now Bob looks like this. And they were like 30-something-year-olds who were very upset by this and were just like, that's not my Bob. Still the same race, still the same Bob the Builder, but a different face. And people hated it because this is not the Bob the Builder that they grew up.
That was the same thing with Sonic. When they tried to come out with Sonic and Sonic did not look like the video game, people fussed about it. You cannot change that stuff. You can't do it. People, they like it the way it is. So as a smart business person, just give it to them the way they want it. You know, who cares what you like? So I want to jump forward a little bit. Check this out.
And also dabbled into non-white Western culture-centered plots for their movies. And the success that they've had with those stories and with those films shows that Disney knows that they can create non-white leads and create non-white princesses and still be successful. So I don't quite know why they don't do it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Disney, if you can create all of these films and you can also create TV shows like this and those be successful, and movies like Black Panther, which featured 99.999% of a black cast and broke records for its success, there is no excuse anymore to not write original black Disney princesses. I have no idea why Disney continues to recycle and give us leftovers. Why do they...
I'll tell you why. Because they're phony. They don't believe in what they're doing. Because if they did, then they would use original black characters or original Asian characters, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just that simple. They don't believe in it. It's fake. And they claim to be progressive and non-istophobic, but they are. she's going to give a reason for it. I don't know if she realized that she already had the answer, or maybe she just didn't want to say it. But let's continue.
They keep doing this, I have no idea, and I think it's disappointing that we keep giving them credit for doing the bare minimum. To the black people who celebrate these race swaps, I really would like you to demand more from these filmmakers, because if they can use their creativity and be original when they write stories like Moana or write stories like Encanto, then why do you not demand the same for your own black representation? Why should we not also have original stories?
That's what kills me with the PBs. You're getting white hand-me-downs. And you're happy. The race swapping, again, it's not always bad, but how they're doing it is bad. Because you're not going to get any original black content. And it's lazy. They figure, well, Superman's power, so we'll just make a black Superman. Excuse me. Well, how about Icon? Because Icon basically is a version of Superman, or a knockoff Superman. But he was a black character, or he became black, which I would retcon that part, but let's continue.
Like other people get to have original stories, which is brilliant because I support that. Because all of the successes of these other films shows us that universally, everybody is happy to support a good Disney film, provided the story is original and good. So had they simply just created a new black princess and given her her own original story, people would have been very supportive of it. But they chose not to do that. They just keep choosing to recycle already pre-existing characters just so they can do their performative pandering. And I think it's time for us to stop celebrating that. There's really no reason why we should be celebrating this. I think it's really annoying because
it's an insult. It's an insult. It's like you're a dog at the table and you're getting leftovers. That's basically what that is.
I do agree that representation matters, and I think it is beautiful to see the reactions of young black girls seeing themselves represented as Disney princesses. And I think they should absolutely have that, but it should be done properly. And this isn't the way to do it properly. Leave the redheads alone. Allow the redheads to keep their representation.
Yeah, that's another thing that gets me. Why is it in the movies, and I've noticed that, and a lot of people speak on that, if the character's a redhead in the books or the source material, they change it. It's like no redheads in the movies. It's funny.
And create new black Disney princesses. There are so many black mythologies and black folklore from African cultures or even Caribbean cultures.
So that's another thing I spoke on. There are 2,000 plus ethnic groups in Africa alone. There's plenty of folklore, and they won't use it. So to me, that's the real racism right there. Why don't you use that? It's the same thing with The Lord of the Rings. They could have made a series using some African folklore and paralleled it and maybe have a crossover or something. But they're not going to do that because they don't think you're worthy of it. And you people that celebrate this nonsense, you're the problem. Stop accepting white hand-me-down characters and demand original black ones. Stop giving them your money. Stop giving weirdo Hollywood your money. They don't care about you. It's fake. It's all fake.
That you could adapt into original Disney movies. But those stories will sit on the back burner and just completely rot away whilst you choose to race swap stories that no one asked you to. And I think it's time that we stop celebrating it because it's not.
So I'm going to end it there. So she has the same point that I have. And again, I don't know why this video popped up. Maybe because I talk about this type of stuff. So You can go check it out. I'll link the video so you can watch the whole thing in its entirety. In conclusion, that's how I feel. The real ism is Hollywood. They don't want to invest in original black content. So no black creator is really going to make any real money off of that. Or have an IP that they own that they can pass down to their family. Like Tolkien. His family owns his work. And they're going to be rich. They have something to eat off of. So that's why, I fuss about race swapping. Because it's lazy and it's bullshit. And no black creators making any real money off of that. And we're not getting any stories from around the world. So anyways, guys, I'm not going to long stroke it. I'm going to wrap it up. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment below. Like, share, subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.